Good evening, good morning, and good night. Welcome to Inappropriate Radio. It's your host, Tasha. Let's get into this. So, hi guys. No periodic table or alien talk this evening. However, you already know the creator came through with a message. Alright, so if this is your first time tuning in, hello, welcome. Please follow me, subscribe, look us up on YouTube at Inappropriate Radio TV. Like I have been saying for the last few weeks, we will be going on camera soon. I just have to organize a few things because I really don't have everything I need, and I just want to get a little bit more prepared. Okay, now we are aware, or if you are not, Saturn is retrograde, right? So it's important for us to know a few things if we are going to call ourselves spiritualists and free thinkers. All right. Now I like to first note that the Saturn retrograde is considered one of the most significant transitions of the year, okay? So every 4 to 4.5 months or so, Saturn goes retrograde for a period of 139 days. So all that means is that every 4 months or so, Saturn, instead of going direct, is moving in a backward motion for a quarter of the year. All right. Or probably a little more than that, right? Yeah. A little, almost half. Okay. Yeah. Like almost half the year. All right. And it's important for us to bear in mind that these planets, number one, have friends, enemies, and neutral planets, right? Some of these planets have multiple different components to it, right? That's to be considered. And some of them sit idle for a very long time, okay? And when I say a long time, I mean a long time, okay? So, like Saturn. I'm so used to saying Mercury retrograde that we forget all of the planets move in a backward motion at some point or another. Okay, so let's just go into some scientific facts. Okay, there are 146 moons in the orbit of Saturn. Okay, it rains diamonds. Okay, so because of the temperature and the pressure in the atmosphere, okay, it is releasing diamonds as rain when it rains. Okay, it's a really cold planet. It's at a negative 288.4 Fahrenheit. Okay, and that's because of how far away it is from the sun. And it went retrograde June 29, and it'll stay retrograde until November the 15th. So 6/29 until 11/15. Do whatever it is that you want with those numbers. All right. Now there's a build up here, so just please follow. Okay. For 2.5 years, right? Saturn will sit in a planet. So March 7th of last year, March 7th of 2023, okay, Saturn went to sit in Pisces. Okay, so that means anyone born between March 7th and 23, and then from 2.5 years from that, okay, which would be sometime in the fall of 25 will have that same placement in Pisces. Everyone born from March 7th of 2023 until 2.5 years from then, which would be around August or September of I was trying to do a little math. So 2 years from March 7th would be March 7th of 2025, right? And then we would add another half year to that. So that would be about 6 months added on, which would place us at about in the fall, okay? All you have to do is add 3 to 6, and that's 9. So that's where I said around August or September, okay? Since 6 months is a half a year. It's just simple mathematics. So anyone who is born between that time will have that same exact placements. So if this is when you look at people who really know astrology and they really know how long these planets sit idle and what qualities they possess and what are their neighbors and their friends and enemies, right? This is how astronomers, astrologers, voodoo priests, witchcraft, warlocks, magicians are able to not only manipulate but come up with potential life partners, careers, your health status. All of that is based off of the transits, right? Whatever is going on in your chart, okay? So, like I said, some of these planets take a while to move around. Saturn, I don't really want to get off of topic because then it's like not what we're talking about, right? Saturn takes 2.5 years to move in a house, right? But to make a transit around the sun now, I'm sorry, not the sun. Well, yeah, but to make an orbit around the sun, it's about 29 years, okay? Which would technically be going through the entire cycle, okay? So just imagine a wheel or a pie cut into 12 slices, okay? Each slice would be a house. Your first house is your ascending or your rising sign, which would start out as Aries. So house number 1 would be Aries. You don't have to have any placements there because maybe there weren't any placements that were going around or being shuffled while you were born, okay? But we would start with Aries and move forward. So your first house, the first house is Aries. Taurus would be second. Gemini would be third, and so on and so forth, okay? Now, depending on what is placed there, remember, we talked about this, and I'm sorry, I was asleep, so I have like a little raw voice right now. But we know that these planets, right, they have enemies, they have friends, and they have neutral people. Mercury and Venus are known to be good friends with Saturn. There are some planets that we as Americans who study Western astrology that we may not be familiar with, so I'm not going to go into that. But if you know anything about Vedic or Chinese astrology, you know that the wheels in the charts are set up based on some differences, right? A few different things, okay? But yeah, wherever your first house is, right? That is your ascending or your rising sign. That is where that sign is found, right? And then you move in a counterclockwise clockwise fashion for the remaining placements, okay? Now, remember, these planets have friends, enemies, and neutral planets. Not all houses will have a sign in it, okay? And as we just discussed, it's important for us to keep in mind that some of these planets that are in these houses, they sit idle. So maybe while there's a bunch of different, planets moving around, some of the other planets will stay for a while. So like, let's say Jupiter, okay? Jupiter sits for about 12 years. So anyone born, let's just say Jupiter went to a house in 1990, okay? It'll stay there. Anyone born in between 1990 and 2002 would have that same placement. It'll be whatever the house is. Let's just say it's in your first house. I don't know, Aries, right? Let's just say Jupiter sits in that house, that position, for 12 years. Anyone born within that time frame will have their Jupiter inside of their first house. Okay? Now, and this is where we started going over talking about birth charts and learning how to interpret them and understand them. Does Jupiter get along with Aries? Does Sagittarius get along with Aries? Does Jupiter get along with Mars? And I'm saying Mars because Mars is the planet that is associated with the first house and the zodiac sign of Aries. Okay? So this is how we start to read. And because of those friends and enemies and neutral signs, this is why some signs that may appear to hate each other get along, because their planets are friends, okay? We went over that a few months ago. Okay? So, Saturn, okay, is considered to be the planet that is associated with time, okay? Responsibility, discipline, justice, maturity, commitment, okay? It is known as the universe's task maker, okay? So this planet is responsible for getting your creative juices going. Now just imagine everything I just said moving in the backward motion. That is the setup, okay? Imagine all of that being put in a backward motion. And this is where we're getting to. This is the moment where we pivot. People who are doing magic right now are putting all of that energy out into the universe. Imagine a capsule. All of that energy is going to be put into a capsule and thrust in a forward motion around November. Okay, so when this retrograde comes to an end, right now, it's just kind of like free game. Build up whatever stamina you can. Get whatever rest you need to get. Figure out what it is you need to be doing. And imagine all of that bad, dark energy being thrown into like I said, like a capsule, and then just like being thrust. So this is why it's important for you to know your placements, because it will save you from going into different cycles, okay? If you are aware that right now everything that is happening is moving backwards, and then in the fall it's going to move forward. No matter how it's affecting you, basically it's going to be the opposite in November, okay? So if it's a drag for you now, it's going to speed up in November, and then vice versa. I just kind of wanted to set that up so we could kind of prepare for a different type of conversation. But yeah, that was the build-up. That was the build-up for another conversation. All right, but I do love y'all. I'm going to end it here. I hope y'all have been drinking your water, eating your fruit and vegetables, and sipping on your own tea, because it's free. Love y'all. Peace.